G'day everyone, welcome back to episode 44 of Jedd's podcast. My name is Jedd Manton, the host, and I've got a very special guest joining me on this show, ex-AFL player in Josh Jenkins. Josh, welcome to the show, mate. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Jedd. Thanks for having me, mate. Looking forward to having a bit of a chat over the next little while about all things in the world.
Absolutely, mate, for sure. Looking forward to chatting to you. First question is, Josh, can you tell us about your experience growing up in a regional town up near Swan Hill Way, mate?
Yeah, I loved it up in Swan Hill. It was a small town, nice and warm in the summertime. Used to get up around, or still obviously gets up around 40 degrees plus. So play a bit of basketball and cricket in the summertime. Watch the cricket on the TV, and then course, get stuck into the footy in the winter. So pretty basic, only a couple of schools in the town. So, just a regular country town, but certainly enjoyed living there for most of my childhood, mate.
A lot of farming gets done up that way, mate, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, a lot of crop farmers and those sorts of things. A little bit of livestock, plenty of sheep in that part of the world. So yeah, there's a heap of farmers in the Swan Hill region.
Sure is. What prompted the move from basketball across to footy, mate, for yourself?
In the end, basketball just sort of came to a bit of a stop. I didn't really see a future for myself. The sport itself was struggling a little bit back then. Now it's very popular, the NBL in Australia, but back in 2007 or so, when I was trying to make a career for myself, it was in a really difficult and pretty poor state. So I just decided that it wasn't going to be a career path for me. So I decided to give footy a shot and went back and played some local footy, and then things escalated from there.
How did you get into the mainstream media after your career, and what are some of the things now, mate, that you're doing in the media yourself personally?
Yeah, I always kept a bit of an eye on the media and working in the media whilst I was still playing footy. Adelaide gave me, a great opportunity to be on radio and to do some stuff with the newspaper. I did an AFL apprenticeship, which is what they called it, with the Adelaide Advertiser. So every Thursday I would go in and sit in the newsroom and shadow a few of the journalists and go to press conferences and those sorts of things. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed, the teams would come out, the AFL teams would come out on a Thursday night. And I guess it was a bit unique because I was in one of the teams that was being written about and those sorts of things. But it was a great little insight into life after footy. And then once life after footy became a reality, I was able to step straight into it and get great opportunities at SEN and with Sportsbet and various other places along the way as well. So it's been a seamless transition, but I think only because I had my eye on life after footy almost from the moment I started playing footy.
Yeah, it's definitely a great pathway for so many ex-AFL players like yourself, Josh, that's working in the media and brings so much football knowledge to the industry. What's the most enjoyable part about being in the media for yourself, mate, personally?
Well, I think it's just the ability to talk about the footy or whatever sport it may be, and knowing that most people are doing what we do, but we're doing it on radio and being paid to do it. So it's a pretty lucky lifestyle and job that you get to do. You're basically just engaging in pub talk or in chat that you'd have with your friends in the backyard or at your local sporting club, whatever it may be. It's a similar conversation. I mean, you need to put a bit more research and work into it, but essentially it's the same chit chat that you'd have with your friends or your colleagues at work. So feel lucky that we get to do that for an occupation.
Just one more question on the media industry, mate. This is going back to when you were playing yourself. How did you find the pressure from being a player from some of the media at certain times, personally?
I think it's certainly escalated in the past few years, and it's probably only going to continue to escalate. Adelaide and Perth are pretty unique environments where, there's one newspaper and three news outlets. There's dedicated radio stations, and they focus solely on the local teams. Whereas here in Victoria, there's a spread of information across the 10 teams or the 8 teams in Victoria. So it's a lot different in that regard. But certainly, whilst I was living in Adelaide, the scrutiny can be quite intense, and I often would say to people that when things were going really well, it was always blown out of proportion, and when things were going really poorly, equally it was always made out to be worse than it was. So there was really no middle ground when you're playing in Adelaide or Perth, but certainly in Melbourne, it's a little bit more level because there are so many other teams and topics to talk about.
Thanks for giving us a insight to the media industry, mate. We appreciate that. Obviously, Josh, with your time at the Crows, can you tell us what the experience was like to play in a showdown against Port Adelaide as two big clubs go over there head to head? What was the experience, mate, like for yourself playing in?
Yeah, it was great. It was always basically you got an opportunity to play in 2 extra finals every year because of the atmosphere and the intensity and the scrutiny and the focus on the games. And the games themselves probably don't get the respect they deserve or the coverage they deserve in Victoria or in Melbourne, but certainly in Adelaide, they're the games that everyone looks forward to. They're the games that are most well attended. They're the games that the fans want to win the most. So yeah, a great opportunity to play in a few of those. I think I played in about 10 or so. So it was a great experience, a great opportunity, and always a tough game to win. It didn't matter whether we were up high in the ladder and Port were down low or vice versa. It was always a contest where you didn't necessarily know what the outcome would be.
Did you enjoy, obviously, playing in front of massive crowds, mate?
Yeah, for sure. I think particularly when it was a home crowd, and I was lucky to play for the Crows at Adelaide Oval. For the most part, we 45 to 50,000 in the crowd. Most home games and a lot of my career there, we were a pretty good team. We were a high scoring team. Won a lot of games at Adelaide Oval, and gave the fans a great reason to come along and watch. So it was a great thrill to play. I think it doesn't matter what size the ground is, as long as it's almost full. Even Marvel Stadium when it's full, or the SCG when it's full. Any of the stadiums when they're full, can provide a great atmosphere. So we were very lucky that Adelaide Oval came along. Basically, as my career started, I played 2 years at Football Park at Amy Stadium, as they called it back then, and then we moved to Adelaide Oval. So I was very lucky to start my career when Adelaide Oval came back into the competition.
It is definitely a great venue over there for sure, mate. Back in 2017, you played in a grand final. I know the result didn't go the way for the Adelaide Crows, but what was the experience like to still get the opportunity, as every young kid dreams of growing up as a kid to play for an AFL club, but also to potentially play in a grand final side and final team?
It was a great opportunity. It was a great thrill. Needless to say, it's probably an entirely different conversation if we had have won the game, but still to be able to participate in grand final week, I think to win through from the prelim final as well. It probably starts from there. So you win your prelim final, and you know that you're about to play in a grand final. You're about to embark in a grand final week. So a great thrill to do that and experience that. The people around you, are able to enjoy it probably more so than you are, because you're locked in and you're focused on trying to do what you need to do to give yourself the best chance to win. So, the parade and all those types of things are great for the fans and for the people around you. But for the most part, we were trying to be locked into the task at hand and treat the certainly the preparation as normally as possible. But it's a great thrill. Not many people get the opportunity to do it. I know some players get to do it 4 or 5 times, but not many players get to do it, or there are a lot of players who don't get to do it at all. So even though we didn't win, it was still a great experience and still something I'm glad we can say we've done.
Absolutely, mate, for sure. What was the build up like with obviously the parade that you just mentioned, and then obviously leading into grand final day on the Saturday morning? Was it pretty quiet on the Friday night for the club? Because I would imagine there would have been a fair few nerves and that, mate, for players and maybe yourself personally.
Yeah, that we stayed at our regular hotel. There's certainly a lot more security and those sorts of things at the hotel. Typically we'd sort of stay at the hotel. Had a large lobby area, a large sort of bar area, so you'd sort of freely hang out down there and talk to friends and family. But it was a little bit more of a tightly held sort of circle at the hotel, but it was pretty much business as usual. We had our meetings in the same meeting room. We ate our meals in the same meals room for dinner and for breakfast. We did stay the extra night because we had to come over for the parade. Normally we'd come over on a Friday afternoon for a Saturday game, but because of the grand final parade, we had to come over on the Thursday afternoon, I think it was, and then stay 2 nights. So that was the only thing that was really much. And of course, a few of the boys like to go for a walk around the lake at Albert Park there in South Melbourne on the day of the game. So a few boys did that, went for a bit of a coffee and just kept it pretty normal. But certainly you could tell that there was a lot more people around, there were a lot more cameras around at the hotel and those sorts of things. But for the most part, it was kept pretty much normal.
Thank you, mate, for sharing an AFL grand final experience with us. We appreciate that as well. Can you tell us about your own personal experience back in 2010? You were picked up in the rookie draft back then, mate.
Yeah, I was. So it was a really quick 12 months, maybe less than. So from basketball to going back and playing local footy in Swan Hill, and then half a footy season later, I went down and played a practice game for Frankston in the VFL, so that some Melbourne clubs could watch me play footy, and I did that, and I did okay, and then I got a few favours were done for me to allow me to get to the draft camp. So I went to the draft combine and did really well there. And then from there, I got the opportunity to train at the Bombers in the pre-season. That was at the end of 2010. So I got the opportunity to train there for a couple of weeks. And in the end, they said that they would put me onto the rookie list and give me an opportunity for 12 months. So I did that, and I played some pre-season AFL games, but didn't get to play any AFL games for real. And then at the end of the year, had to make a tough choice to stay at the Bombers or move along to the Crows.
What would your message be, mate, for someone that's hoping to get picked up in the main draft, but they don't? What would your message be for them?
I think just to remain persistent and certainly remain understanding of and maybe even have a look at and do some research online about how many great players don't actually get picked up in the main draft. They come through rookie drafts and they get traded and they have to be redrafted, and they come through mid-season drafts now. And there are a heap of really good mid-season draft players going around in the AFL at the moment. There's a heap of great rookies who have had long careers, who missed out on multiple main drafts, but they got picked up in the rookie draft, and it hasn't held them back at all. There's Brownlow medalists and all Australians who were rookies back in the day, and hasn't slowed them down one bit. And I think that in one way, coming through the rookie draft or the mid-season draft can set you up for more success down the track, because you know how much it means to you, and you know how hard it was to get to that position. So even though we all want to be a number one pick or a top 10 pick, just because you get drafted as a rookie or whatever else, it doesn't mean you can't still have a great career, as we've seen from so many players who have taken that path.
Absolutely, mate, for sure. There is definitely so many great opportunities for players nowadays to get opportunity through the AFL system. We know that you played a majority of your footy career, mate, in SA, but what brought you back to Victoria to play for the Geelong Cats?
It was probably the right time for me to move along from the Crows. We'd had our finals charge. We'd fallen one game short of the ultimate success, and I think I was a 30-year-old at the time. The Crows were keen to regenerate and get a bit younger and try and find their next young forwards and go down that path. So I was happy to move back to Victoria. I was keen to get to the Cats and experience their lifestyle and their environment, and I'm glad I did. I didn't play as many games for the Cats as I would have liked, and certainly it was a unique experience because of COVID. I spent 2 years. We spent 2 years, on the road, living in hotels and living in hubs. So it was a bit of a strange experience, but all in all, we still live in Geelong now. I moved here at the end of 2019, and we're sort of getting to the end of 2024. So, it's almost been 5 years. I've really enjoyed it. And my eldest daughter's at school here. So, my wife works here in Geelong now. So, we've loved the move, and that's why, football is a major part of your life. But, excuse me, but there's so much more to life once your football career finishes. So, enjoyed my 2 years as a player at Geelong, enjoyed 2 years as a part-time assistant coach, and now just enjoying life outside the AFL system totally.
Do you hope one day to get back involved, mate, with the AFL, with some coaching or something like that, potentially?
Perhaps for the time being, I'm really happy, not being involved. It's a really time-consuming industry. It's a really hard industry. It's a really pressurized industry, and at the moment, I've got young kids who take up a lot of my time and need a lot of attention and need a lot of energy and effort put into their lives. So, at the moment, I'm enjoying the ability and the opportunity to just be around for them, to be able to do school drop-offs and school pickups and, make school lunches in the mornings and all those sorts of things, be around for school athletics or, daycare activities or whatever it might be. So, a lot of the guys and girls involved at AFL level don't get to experience those things, and a lot of people who have any type of job, miss out on those types of things. So at the moment, I'm, enjoying the ability to do that and just be around the kids, and maybe one day down the track, whether it's in recruiting or in list management or whatever it may be, the time might be right to try and get back involved. But for now, at least, I'm enjoying my time away from AFL.
That's great to hear, mate, that you're enjoying a break from footy. You debuted back in round 2012 against the Cats. Can you tell us what it was like to play your first game of AFL football?
Yeah, it was a super experience. I can still remember, a little bit about the game. I started on the bench, and I remember getting a bit of a rub on the bench, just sort of trying to take it all in and trying to realize and understand what was about to happen. And I always thought to myself, because I'd come through as a rookie and it was a bit of a unorthodox entry into the AFL, I thought to myself, well, if I can play one game, I've got that to hold on to forever, and no one can take that away from me. And I'd tick that box. I'd been able to say I've played in AFL games, which not many people can say. So it was a great experience. We had a massive win over the Cats, who were the reigning premiers as well. So everything was pretty perfect on the day. So absolutely love the experience and can still remember parts of it, certainly very vividly.
Always great memories, mate, to hold on to forever. Who were some of your mentors at Adelaide and Geelong Cats as well?
I had a couple of great coaches who I still stay in contact with now. Mark Bickley, who was the Crows' only ever premiership captain. He was the forwards coach when I was starting my time at the Crows, and he now does a lot of media work, and we cross paths in that space. So I stay in contact with him. He was a great mentor from a football perspective, but also very good with life after footy as well. David Teague's another one who was our forwards coach when we played in the grand final. He's a great teacher of the game. He was very good at allowing us to play with freedom and play to our strengths and not focus on our weaknesses. And he's someone who I don't sort of have a lot of contact with now, but he's a guy who, if I bumped into him down at the local cafe, it'd be as if we'd caught up, only last week. He's sort of one of those types of guys. So I know he's in between. I think he's departed Richmond at the moment, but he's a great coach and he knows his stuff. So I'm sure he'll be involved at some level if he chooses to. So there are a couple of guys, and at Geelong, Nigel Lappin is a common name that most Geelong people talk about, and he certainly fits the bill for me. He was a great sounding board when I was a little bit older and wasn't playing as many AFL games as I would have liked. He was a great person to talk to. He's very understanding of everyone's situations, and again, he's a guy who I catch up with, infrequently, maybe once a month or once every 6 weeks. But every time you catch up with him, it's as if you've seen each other, almost every second day. So those three guys would probably be the main ones from a footy perspective.
There are definitely great mentors, mate, that you've had over the years. What was your relationship like with some of the players? I'll just name a couple quickly, including Rory Sloane, Tex Walker at the Crows, and then blokes like Joel Selwood and Tom Hawkins down at Geelong.
Yeah, I had great friendships and working relationships with all. My wife certainly has great friendships with Rory Sloane's wife and with Taylor Walker's wife. They recently all went on a holiday together and had a good time up in Queensland. So those guys are, when you're winning a lot of footy games together and you're playing a lot of footy together, and particularly with the boys from Adelaide. Every second week we're hopping on a plane and playing on the road, and we're in a hotel. And when you're in that type of environment, and you're around each other, 24/7 for whatever it is, 1, 2, 3 days. So you sort of can't help but become pretty friendly and pretty close. And the guys in Geelong, again, a similar age. Tom Hawkins and I still speak at least once a week, maybe even more on text. And Joel Joel's a great guy who always, will drop a text if he's listening on the radio or vice versa. So, I think that's the great thing about footy. Like most workplaces, the work comes and goes and the success comes and goes, but you cross paths with great people who you hang on to and stick with throughout.
Yes, it is definitely great, mate, to keep them friendships forever outside of footy. Can you tell us, do you have a favourite sporting memory from over the years personally for yourself?
It's hard to go past the 2017 preliminary final that we won. We played against the Cats, and we played almost the perfect game. I think we were up by 30 or 40 points at quarter time. Charlie Cameron kicked 5 goals and had a massive game. Eddie kicked a couple of goals. The team just played, as good as it can possibly play, and it was a great thrill to play in the game. The crowd was going berserk. It was a full house. I think it was a Friday night game as well. So, yeah, that was probably my most memorable and enjoyable game. Obviously, a lot of pressure to win so that you get into a grand final, but certainly, the way that game panned out was sensational for us.
Who was the hardest opponent? Do you reckon, mate, that played on you at some point during your footy AFL career?
I'd say a guy that I actually ended up teaming up with, Harry Taylor, probably the most difficult player to play on. He's a really determined opponent. He's a really diligent opponent. He would never have any mental errors. He would never sort of let himself down and give away an easy goal or an easy free kick. He was always difficult to get the ball against. And he's a lot stronger than perhaps he looks. He's more agile and quicker than he certainly looks. But he was one who was always difficult to have some success against. His teammate Tom Lonergan was similar. He was played very much like a bit of a glove. He was always all over you and had long arms and good strength. So, those two Cats guys were difficult. Michael Jamison was a really difficult opponent when I was younger as well. He was quite strong and very good with his body work when he was at Carlton. So, those 3 guys are 3 that spring to mind.
I'll ask you one more final question, mate, before we wrap up this episode. Can you tell us what hobbies and interests that you obviously have now outside of our footy and working life?
Certainly, my kids take up a lot of my spare time, and I love doing things with them, whether it be bike riding or scooters, or we're learning to do rollerblading. And we recently went to the snow and took them to the snow, which was a great experience for them. So, trying to do as much as we can with the girls. When I get a bit of downtime, I enjoy American sports. I love the NFL. I love watching basketball, both in Australia and in America. I loved watching the basketball at the Olympics. I love horse racing. I love most sports, to be honest, and I love watching the footy as well. So I'm looking forward to watching the finals as a fan and seeing which team takes out the premiership. I'm sort of not too fast who it is. Hopefully it's a great final series, but to be honest, I've really enjoyed the opportunity to cover the games this year, but looking forward to the next little while. I reckon with the NFL, with the NBA not too far away, and with the AFL finals, this might be the best time of year for sport.
Absolutely, mate, for sure. The finals are going to be very exciting, as we all know. They kick off from next weekend. Josh, a massive thank you for joining us on this episode. We really appreciate your time, and also congratulations on a great football career too, mate.
Awesome, Jedd. Thanks for having me on, and keep up the great work, mate. You're doing well.
No worries, thank you. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode to come out soon on Jedd's podcast. Take care. Bye for now.